This episode, Dumawall, an alternative to tile. Ever wondered if there's an alternative to traditional tile? The Handyman Pros have a discussion about a new product called Dumawall, and it is an alternative to tile. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled Dumawall, an alternative to tile. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy John. John, what have you been doing this week?
Besides visiting my parole officer?
Well, that's a monthly thing anyway.
Well, this week I actually, and we'll get to Dumawall in a second. I actually took a page out of our tips and I started the furnaces. I think I told you this, and before it got really cold out, I wanted to see if those things were, I cleaned them all out, checked for cracks and things like that, and started them up. And sure enough, one of them in the attic didn't start. So
we give these tips out. We give these tips out for a reason.
That's right. And old Johnny going back up into the attic to take a look at what's going on with the furnace. So I'm not giving furnace tips and advice of how to fix furnaces and things like that. But, there's a variety of things that can happen over the course of the summer, especially if it's a gas furnace and gas, it's the furthest thing away from your gas supply lines, things like that. And after a little bit of working with it, it started and it's fine. It's working great. But, it just taught me to kind of heed that tip because what would have happened, right? You know exactly what would have happened.
Yeah, it'd have been really cold, and then the thing wouldn't work at all.
Exactly. Then it would have been, man, I need to turn that thing on. And I'd be going, oh, no. And at that time, if it really push came to shove and I had to really get something, somebody out here to replace it because my units are getting old, they would be jammed. They wouldn't be
jammed. Yeah,
so
exactly.
Just take that tip. But
and your wife would be saying, "John, we need to turn on the heat."
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have been a good situation. So, yeah, so that's what I've been doing this past week. And Larry, I know you had been installing some of this stuff called Dumawall in your properties. And,
yeah,
I ran into this stuff. I was in Lowe's.
You can say Lowe's because that's the only place where it is right now. Retail.
And I was there, and I looked at it, and I said, "Boy, what is that? It's good looking stuff."
Yeah.
And Larry, why don't you? It's a tile alternative, and Larry, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So it's twofold application. I had a friend of mine who had he cracked his bathroom tub, and I go and I look at the job and I see this. I mean, he's got a serious crack in the bottom. It's a 25-year-old house, and he had a fiberglass garden tub of all the kind of crazy things. And so garden tubs, as you know, are a little hard to get like fiberglass walls and things for the garden tubs. And this was something where we actually found the tub, but we couldn't find the walls to match it, right? So I was searching for an alternative to do his walls. Now, in his walls, I still scratch my head on this one. He has this garden tub, John, and on his walls, he's just got drywall up. Now, it'd been painted multiple times, but he had no what I call water permeable water impermeable surface on his drywall. He literally had shower walls that were made of drywall. And amazingly, I right, whatever, not my circus, right. Not my monkeys, right?
Right.
I mean, was absolutely shocked when I got in there. Had to take the tub out, so had to take down part of the drywall anyway. And the drywall was highly damaged, but only about a foot up from the tub. I probably cut out about half the drywall just because I actually did it to 4-foot lengths so that I could cut the drywall easily. And I wanted to make sure I was far enough up. But this drywall wasn't even green board, which is moisture resistant. It was just regular old drywall. And I was amazed that that stuff just hadn't turned to complete mush, but it hadn't turned to mush. So anyway, long story short, I'm out looking for these alternatives, and I'm doing my internet searches and looking all over the place. I just didn't want to do tile, because tile, I'm very competent in doing tile and all, but it was going to be kind of pricey. It was going to be very expensive. And John, as you know, doing a good tile wall is a really long-term, or in our world, it's a very long-term process. It was going to take probably 4 days to do it properly, you know, because you have to do it in stages, and things have to dry and all that kind of thing,
and then grout,
and all that, all the stuff that goes into doing tile. And I'm like, and not averse to doing this stuff, but this was, because it was a garden tub, it was a pretty big job. You know, it was actually going to be pretty expensive to do it. So I was trying to find shower walls. So I think I typed in alternative to shower walls, and up pops this Dumawall stuff. And I'm like, I'm looking and looking and looking. I'm going like, wow, like, is this stuff too good to be true? So I popped down. The only place that I've been able to find it besides direct from the manufacturer on their website is at Lowe's. So it's one of the few times that we actually use a store name, because we generally, you know, we don't play favorites. But I go down to Lowe's and I look at this stuff, and I'm actually, and of course, me being me, I'm very inquisitive, and I want to know, like, how is this stuff really waterproof? And folks, if you go and if you take two pieces out of the package and you put it together, you will understand how it is waterproof. And this product is a PVC product. They have a number of colors. They only carry generally 2 colors at the big box store, and one is a Carrara marble, and the other is this kind of bronzy gray color. But they do have other colors that you can have other colors. Yeah, you can order those from their website. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm looking at this stuff, and it initially was an untested product for me. So I'm looking at it, and after I actually looked at it and read through a bunch of different reviews on it and things like that, I was like, I'm going to give this stuff a try. And I have to tell you what, I am a sold camper on this stuff. It goes up with just good construction adhesive, and we did a show on which construction adhesive that you can use. You don't need the 10X stuff. You can just use, the 3X stuff. You want to use a polyurethane glue, but you just basically glue this stuff up against the walls and follow the instructions on how to put the dry. I put green board up. I left it about 1/4 of an inch above the tub rim. I then put a silicone bead of caulk so no water will wick up into drywall. I don't care what kind of drywall it is. And you would do the same thing with tile. It's exactly the same as if you're laying tile in. And then I brought this down and I just overlapped the edge of the drywall, and then I put another bead of caulk in at the bottom. This stuff goes up so easily. You can cut it with a saw.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So how were you cutting that?
I used a combination of my circular saw, my jigsaw. I had to cut some edges around. I had to get some. His walls were not perfectly square. Big surprise. Or any walls ever perfectly square. I cut it with a jigsaw. Happened to use a metal blade on it. I have since cut it with a wood blade. Both work equally as well with the jigsaw. I used a circular saw, and I used a chop saw to just do the bigger pieces, just because I was set up to do it, right? So just traditional tools. You can also score this stuff with a knife and snap it, which works just as well. I did a couple of pieces that way. I don't know. I personally, I like the beautiful squareness of the chop saw. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And what I saw of it is that it does look like it has. It's not grouted, right? You don't put grout on it, nope. But it looks like it's got. It looks like it.
It looks like it has a grout line. Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, it does. It looks like you have taken I use Carrara marble. I've used it several times. I actually just did a backsplash with it. I did a backsplash for one of my rental houses because I wanted a nice impermeable water layer back behind the sink, so that if somebody sprays water up on it or sprays grease or soap or whatever, it's going to run down and go into the sink, like just what you use a backsplash for. But you don't grout it, you just glue it up. The only tips, I will say, there is one tip when you're putting it up. It does have an orientation, and you can reverse the orientation. So if you reverse the orientation, you'll get a little, kind of a little bump in it, and then you just need to flip it over and turn it around. And you'll figure that out when you go to do it. It's really, really simple. It's very waterproof, and it also is really scratch resistant. It's almost I don't know how to describe it. It's really nice. I really enjoyed putting it up, and it looks great. And it's, to date so far, it's working great. Now, I will say, when I did the shower for my buddy, I did take and I prepared the walls the way that I basically did the prep that you'd do for tile, right, John? So I put drywall up. I put tape joints in there, so I taped the joints on the drywall where there were gaps. I didn't sand it. I sanded it pretty well. It doesn't have to be finish sanding because remember, you're just putting construction adhesive on the back of this stuff. So when you press it up, you don't want like bumps and things in your walls, but you can do it against the wall doesn't have to. It's not like paint. It's not that fine. You're not making it. It doesn't need to be perfectly sanded. You need to take the lumps out of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a rough sanding. I then took that. I then caulked the seams of the drywall I used silicone caulk, and I just made it real thin so that where the corners were, I put a bead of silicone down, and then I put the Red Guard or the paint on waterproof barrier over the top of that. Right. Look, my thing is, and I think you're the same way, John, when I'm doing this kind of project, the added time and expense of adding that vapor barrier, that real solid water vapor barrier, is minuscule compared to fixing a leak down the road, right? So
the pictures that you sent were, it really looks good. I mean, it looked like it all kind of. They have this system where does it snap together? Or does it slide in behind itself, or because it is like a waterproof, right? I mean, it is waterproof at that point.
It's waterproof at that point. It slides together, so it doesn't snap. It doesn't snap in, but it slides in, and it has an interlocking channel that when you actually look at it and you think like water, you realize you can't get water behind it. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be now.
Yeah. I mean, it really is
at the corners, of course. You do have to caulk the corners, right? If you're doing a 90-degree corner, you're going to have to caulk there.
Yeah.
But over the flat surfaces that you do, it's going to be really, really hard for water to get in behind it. It mounts up.
That's a great alternative. It's kind of akin to it's a cool new material that's out there. Because when I looked at it, I was like, wow, what is this stuff? And I was like, wow, this stuff looks just like tile, and I'm sure they'll probably come out with a whole bunch more different colors and things like that. But it's kind of akin to the other new materials, like we've talked about the LVP, the luxury vinyl planking. These are really some really nice new materials that are relatively inexpensive for what they are, and they go down quick.
Right.
And they look fantastic, and they have a tremendous wearability to them.
Correct. In fact, when we were doing this wall, my first query was, can you glue LVP to the wall and use it as a shower surround? I never got a definitive answer that I was comfortable with to do that, but I still believe that actually could be done. And I'm not putting that out there that anyone should do that, by the way. Do a lot of research for that. I think if you were doing something like a backsplash, I don't think you'd have much of an issue because backsplashes aren't immersed in water, right? They're not getting sprayed every single day hopefully they're not. Sure. Hopefully they're not.
That's true.
But it does give you, it gives you some alternatives. This is a tip for LVP that I've done on many, many, many houses, and both for customers and for myself. Under the sinks, John. Right? What does it look like under your sink? What does that look like under most sinks that you've done work on?
I'll tell you exactly. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but a lot of the times when I'm under these sinks, there's a lot of chemicals that you store underneath your sink. A lot of cleaning chemicals and things like that, and they start to eat away at the bottom of the flooring of the sink and stuff like that, and it's awful.
It's dirty and nasty.
Put that stuff in there.
Yeah.
And
the other thing that happens is, at least this happens a lot, at least on my property. Well, actually, we see it. You know what? I see it when I go into customers' houses all the time too. The slip joint up underneath your sink gets loose. They do, right? They just normally do.
Absolutely.
And people don't tighten them up, so they get a slow drip, and it literally is a slow drip, but it drips over the months and years, as it were, and it'll kind of eat away at the underneath the sink, right? So and if it's a press board, it makes it all, it makes it nasty, right? So we've done. And have you done any yet, John? Have you put any under sinks yet? Any LVP up under sinks?
No.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm waiting to. I'm waiting to do my floor in my my master bathroom, and that's getting real close to it. And then I'll buy some extra, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So I've done it. Let's see. I've probably done it 15 times so far that I've done it. I've done it both for customers, and I'm now if I'm in one of my rental houses, I don't care what it is, it's going to get it no matter what. I just put it in because it's just that much of a how do we want to say it? You know, it's a maintenance item, right? So I put it in there. I don't have to worry about it anymore because I know it's waterproof, right? So if that sink does leak, there'll be a puddle of water there. It's not soaking into the wood, right, and rotting the wood away, and which then causes mold and all that other, mold and mildew and all that other fun stuff. And then too, from as you're talking about, the rust stains and things off in my house, I love Barkeeper's Friend, which is a cleanser type thing, and it's got a steel ring on it, the top of the can. You get a couple little drips of water on there, and now you got rust stains, round rust stains, right? Because the can rusts a little bit and it leaves that rust stain. No more rust stains with LVP underneath your sink. It goes. You can wipe it off. I mean, it leaves it, but you wipe it off, and it wipes off. Oh, it's fantastic. Easy to do. Probably hour-long project maybe, if that, if you have the material. And it's also a great use. And John, you just alluded to something too. That it's a great use. I would put Dumawall under there as well if I had some extra. You could do the same thing with Dumawall.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to use up some of your extra materials because most of these products you have to buy by the box, right? So when you buy LVP, you buy a box of it, and it's going to be whatever it is, 35 square feet or something like that.
And you can get quite creative with the scraps, right?
You're
making coasters out of them. Actually, I'm going to use some extra. I'm going to buy some extra LVP, and I'm going to put it on the shelving on my bar in the basement, behind the bar. Because right now I don't really care for what's there, and I'm just gonna put that stuff on top of it. It's gonna look like $1 million.
So I have done. I took some LVP, and I would have used Dumawall on this, but at the time I did this one, I didn't know about Dumawall. I actually had a cabinet. I had a cabinet that I built for a friend of mine, and it was a custom cabinet. It was a very, very custom cabinet. I normally do not build cabinets, but this one was in a remodel of a house that was built in 1960, 58, 60. Anyway, it was an old house, and it had a really funky line, so I had to build the cabinet. And I built the cabinet out of 3/4-inch plywood, and then I just put LVP on the outside of it and used that as the finish board because it made it look. We got, you have a bazillion colors, right? So I had a bazillion colors. But I could have used Dumawall on there. He would have been thrilled with Dumawall just as well. But we just glued it up, done, right? Done. It looked like $1 million. I mean, like $1 million. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Our points here is think a little bit outside the box when you look at some of these newer materials because some of this stuff, even though LVP is flooring, I have been reading around on the internet and just reading about LVP, and a lot of people are using it for wall coverings in certain applications where they want a wood type look, but they don't want to pay for wood because it's less money and it's easy to put up. And then the other side is if they want to take it down, they can take it down as well. So it has a lot of advantage.
Right. It's just, we talk about this a lot, is all these new materials, and that's what we wanted to bring out here today in this episode, in this show, is to, introduce you to things like this Dumawall.
Yeah, Dumawall is certainly a great alternative to tile. About the only downside that I saw to it, it's not inexpensive. Okay, but it's also not expensive, if that makes sense. It falls cost per square foot, you're going to be about even with an inexpensive tile. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's even including installation time. It's going to be, your cost is about the same per square foot as an inexpensive tile. But the only other downside to it, the only real downside that I see to it at this point is just the lack of colors. And they have, I think it's about 10. I'd have to look on their website, but I think they have about 10 colors readily available too. And that's the only real negative that I've seen to date. And I do follow up with my friend on his shower. He has had zero problems out of that shower. In fact, they're thrilled. They're just thrilled.
These are great. These are great tips. These are great materials, and it's a good tip to, for folks out there that you're looking for a relatively inexpensive alternative to tile. Things that you can do yourself. It goes up easy. It's easy to cut.
Easy to cut. Easy to install.
And try it out, folks. That's you want a new backsplash. Give this stuff a try.
Yeah, I do want to add one more thing. So this was because I did this for my friend's shower wall. I had just done a bathroom in one of my rental houses, and this was an old, John, this is the old style 5x8 bathroom, right? That is so prevalent in so many older homes.
Sure.
And I actually went and put a fiberglass tub and a fiberglass insert in it. So for fun, this is what the Handyman pros do for fun. This is like, talk about geekdom. Anyway, I decided, I said to myself, what would it cost? And I didn't know about Dumawall at the time I put the fiberglass insert in. I said, what is the cost for me to do this 5x8 bathroom with the actual tub walls in Dumawall versus the fiberglass insert? And the cost was actually just slightly less than the fiberglass inserts on the walls, right? So, the 3-panel inserts that you can put up on it, right? The difference is, A, in my opinion, it looks 1,000 times better. B, I can tell you from personal experience, it's a whole lot easier to put up. I mean, a whole lot easier. Yeah. Those 3-panel fiberglass inserts, while they look really simple to put up, there's some tricks and tips.
Yeah, there is
tips and tricks to getting those things up there, right?
Yeah, and we'll cover that on another show.
Yeah, that's a whole show.
But you're right. You're right about that. Right about that.
And when I said that the cost was slightly less, that includes the cost of the drywall and putting up RedGuard or putting up an impermeable, paint-on membrane. Yeah. There's a couple of people that make it. RedGuard's the most common one.
Right.
That's total cost, right? So not including labor. Okay, not including labor. But I can tell you that from a personal side, having done this, multiple times now, Dumawall is easy to put up, and it's not beyond the average person's DIY ability. And I just personally think it's great. The only, one other downside on the shower walls compared, there's no shelving, but that's up to you. Do you like those molded in shelves or not? So anyway,
alrighty,
that's Dumawall. Anything else, John?
Very good. Very good. Now I'm going to give that stuff a try. I'm first got to go for the LVP, and then I'm going for the Dumawall to see what I can do with that stuff. So good tip, Larry.
My question is, John, do you think there's Dumawall in the spaceships?
When I took it apart, I don't know what it was, but it had a nice backsplash in the kitchen.
Awesome. Well, folks, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, send us an email. That's questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. Go to our website, leave us a message. Again, handymanprosradioshow.com. Join our Facebook group @handymanpros, or follow us on Twitter, and that's @handymanradio. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this podcast and have derived some value from it, here's 4 things you can do. 1, tell your friends about this podcast. 2, hit subscribe on your podcast player. While you're there, leave us a review. 3, subscribe to our newsletter by going to handymanprosradioshow.com and click on the subscribe button. We'll inform you of upcoming events, shows, and give you actionable tips for maintaining your home and property. And 4, send us an email with your questions to questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. That's handymanprosradioshow.com. That's our show for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.